When I wake up in the morning, love, and the sunlight hurts my eyes, and something without warning, love, bears heavy on my mind, then I look at you, and the world's all right with me. Just one look at you, and I know it's gonna be a lovely day. Oh, a lovely day. When the day that lies ahead of me seems impossible to face, when someone else instead of me always seems to know the way, then I look at you and the world's all right with me. Just one look at you, and I know it's gonna be a lovely day. A lovely day. When the day that lies ahead of me seems impossible to face, when someone else instead of me always seems to know the way, then I look at you and the world's all right with me. Oh, just one look at you, and I know it's gonna be a lovely day. Oh, a lovely day. A lovely day. Oh, yeah. Lovely day, lovely day, lovely day, lovely day, lovely day, lovely day. It's gonna be, yeah, a lovely day. Oh, lovely day, lovely day, lovely day. Oh, lovely day. A lovely day.
Good morning. Welcome to the center. I'm practitioner Clarissa Crow, and I'm so grateful to be with you today. So let's begin with a prayer. I bring myself into awareness right now. Awareness of the power and the presence of Spirit within and all around me. I recognize that infinite love, infinite beauty, infinite peace, infinite harmony, infinite joy is present right here in this moment. I know that I am one with it, and I allow my consciousness to align with that frequency, with the vibration of truth, of newness, of infinite possibility. There is no limitation, there is no lack, there is no separation. I am an individualized point of light, a center of God consciousness, an eternal being. And as I know this to be true for me, I know that it is true for each one of us, that we each contribute something special to the whole of life, simply by being who we are. Today we remember that there is no aspect of ourselves that is separate from the divine. There is no part of us that is outside of our wholeness and our oneness. And so I just embrace and celebrate it all of the ways that life shows up, knowing that it's all a blessing, it's all a gift, and it's all good. And so it is. So I have a reading for you here from Dang Ming Dao, and it's called Beginning. This is the moment of embarking. All auspicious signs are in place. In the beginning, all things are hopeful. We prepare ourselves to start anew. Though we may be intent on the magnificent journey ahead, all things are contained in this first moment. Our optimism, our faith, our resolution, our innocence. In order to start, we must make a decision. This decision is a commitment to daily self-cultivation. We must make a strong connection to our inner selves. Outside matters are superfluous. Alone and naked, we negotiate all of life's travails. Therefore, we alone must make something of ourselves, transforming ourselves into the instruments for experiencing the deepest spiritual essence of life. Once we make our decision, all things will come to us. Auspicious signs are not a superstition, but a confirmation. They are a response. It is said that if one chooses to pray to a rock with enough devotion, even that rock will come alive. In the same way, once we choose to commit ourselves to a spiritual practice, even the mountains and valleys will reverberate to the sound of our purpose. And then there's this well-known quote from William H. Murray: "Until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness. Concerning all acts of initiative and creation, there is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans, that the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events issues from the decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents, meetings, and material assistance which no man could have dreamed would come his way. Whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now." And then Adyashanti talks about this idea of the most important thing. Asking yourself, what is my most important thing? And you can ask it in different areas of your life, and the answers will often change at different times in your life. But let's look at the spiritual aspect of your life right now. Spiritually, what's the most important thing? He says, not the top 10, not the top 5, not the top 3, not even the top 2. What is the most important thing about your own spiritual life? That part of your life where you take the deep dives into the discovery of meaning, the discovery of that which gives you a sense of aliveness, of vitality, of inspiration, of calm, of happiness, of joy. What is your spiritual life all about? What's the focus? What do you want? He says this is the question around which your whole life orbits. It's the orienting principle of your life. No one can decide this for you, what is truly most important to you. For me, this most important thing idea is my why. Reverend Amani has taught me the importance of having a very clear why as the foundation of everything I do. You've got to know your why if you're going to commit your whole self to something. And as William H. Murray said, when we do dive in all the way, when we give our whole self to something, the whole universe conspires to support us, which means that the fruits of our desire will show up in every aspect of our life, even the most unexpected places. So close your eyes for a minute, or soften your gaze and just watch the images on the screen. And let's sit with this for a minute. Take a deep breath and feel it move through your whole body. Take another breath and sink into your heart. And just ask yourself the question, what is my why? What is my most important thing? Maybe it's deepening your relationship with your own inner wisdom, or being the place where love shows up on the planet. Maybe it's being present in the now, or being madly in love with the unique expression of God that you are. Just ask and listen. Maybe you already know, and if so, just let your consciousness steep for a minute in that knowing. And don't worry if the answer doesn't come now. It can take time to find the clarity, and that's perfectly okay. Just begin today with the inquiry and spend time each day like this until your clarity comes. What is your spiritual life all about? What is your most important thing? Take another deep breath. Bring yourself back. Know that you are so loved, that you are perfect exactly the way you are. Thank yourself for taking this time for yourself. And know that you can return to this meditation as often as you'd like. Namaste. beautiful I am. Bountiful I am. Bliss I am, I am. I am the light of my soul. I am beautiful I am. Bountiful I am. Bliss I am, I am. I am the light of my soul. I am beautiful. I am bountiful. I am bliss. I am, I am. I am the light of my soul. I am beautiful. I am bountiful. I am bliss. I am, I am. I am the light of my soul. I am beautiful. I am bountiful. I am bliss. I am, I am. I am the light of my soul. I am beautiful. I am bountiful. I am bliss. I am, I am. I am the light of my soul. I am beautiful. I am bountiful. I am bliss. I am, I am. I am the light of my soul. I am beautiful. I am bountiful. I am bliss. I am, I am. I am, I am, 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 I am, I am. I am the light of my soul. I am beautiful. I am bountiful. I am bliss. I am, I am.
Perennial wisdom principle number 2. You contain two ways of knowing the world. A greater knowing, often referred to as Atman, the soul, the capital S self, spirit, the great mind, the absolute. And that self intuitively knows each finite life as a unique manifestation of the infinite life. And we also have a lesser knowing, sometimes called the little s self, the ego, ahem, kibur. And this self mistakes uniqueness for separateness and imagines itself apart from, rather than a part of, infinite life. Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind, says in an excerpt from Sermon by the Sea, "Find me somebody who has detached their emotional and psychological ego from the real self, without having to deny the place it plays in the scheme of things, and without slaying any part of themselves because the transcendence is there also. and I will have discovered the ineffable in this individual and a direct pathway for the communion of my own soul. Little s, big S. We contain both of these ways of knowing. We contain a wholeness, a perfection, if you will, that is both of these ways of being and seeing and understanding in the world. But many of us in spiritual practice, many of us who consider ourselves spiritually independent or awake or evolved, we get into this argument and try to slay this whole aspect of ourselves, our way of seeing and knowing, this little s self. Many of us in science of mind and new thought or new age or spiritual but not religious, however you may identify, we think of ourselves as spiritual and not religious because we don't necessarily believe that there is a hell or a devil or an evil, right? We believe in the oneness of life. But one of the mistakes I see us make over and over again is we make the ego the new devil. We act like this little s self is sinful, is the problem, must be slayed. And what I am offering is that these two ways of knowing, these two aspects of ourselves, are part of our divine wholeness. And like Ernest says, find me the person who has understood the difference between these two selves, but has not slayed one, but understands the role they play, because transcendence is there also. So that, my friends, is part of our work. This second principle of perennial wisdom, again, running through all of the great world teachings and traditions and religions, that there are these two ways of knowing. They're not actually two separate selves. They are two aspects of our greater divine wholeness. I want to share with you a beautiful poem written by Teresa of Avila. I had a natural passion for fine clothes, excellent food, and lively conversation about all matters that concern the heart still alive, and even a passion about my own looks. But vanities, they do not exist. Have you ever walked across a stream, stepping on rocks so not to spoil a pair of shoes? All we can touch, swallow, or say aids in our crossing to God and helps unveil the soul. Life smooths us, rounds, perfects, as does the river the stone. And there is no place our beloved is not flowing. Though the current's force you may not always like. Our passions help lift us. I loved what I could love until I held God. For then, all things, every world disappeared. I loved what I could love until I held God. But what she's pointing to, what Ernest Holmes is pointing to, is that we love what we love. We allow the river to shape us like it does the stone. And our experiences and our misunderstandings and our pains and our joys and our desires are all part of that shaping, that uniqueness that we each are, that uniqueness that is required to create a whole God, a whole unity. And when we try to slay or push away or make evil that little s self, those experiences that shape us in our unique way, we miss the path to God. It is those very things, it is those stepping across the rocks so as not to ruin our cute shoes that are part of what leads us to the one. It isn't just the unicorns and the rainbows and the nirvana and the stillness that lead us to God. It is the whole kit and caboodle. It is those moments where we are so afraid to take another step that fear itself helps to shape the step we take. It is that resistance to something true that often fuels us towards it. It is that little s self who helps us get out of bed in the morning so that we can show up to whatever that next step may be, to whatever piece of life may be shaping us in our own beautiful, unique God way. And it isn't until we allow our wholeness to be that we can even really begin to understand the role that little s self and that capital S self play. And I love how Teresa named it. I loved what I could love. Which means we must give ourselves permission to be exactly who we are as we are right now. And when we do that, and when we allow ourselves to be who we are, we can then go into it. We can understand how our passions and our fears are shaping us. We can begin to understand how some of that little s self thinking may be creating things that no longer serve us. We may begin to understand when we are willing to go into that whole self that allows us to be guided and led to holding God and to recognizing that all those things that led to this moment, that led to that understanding, have been a part of the path. And we might even be grateful for them all. We might even begin to understand that our unique journey, our unique set of circumstances, our unique history, our unique desires and passions are these beautifully ordained, appointed, perfect pieces of our wholeness. So rather than trying to slay what we think are the monsters in our own minds, what happens when we lean in, love what we can love, as Teresa of Avila has said, so that we can begin to understand these aspects of ourselves, so that we can be in right relationship with that ego, with that little s self, with that greater self, with that wisdom and that intelligence that is of the one, that is also going on in here. But it's not until we lean into it, it's not until we go in and begin to discern these aspects of ourselves that we can then begin to understand the wholeness in our own nature and the wholeness of life itself. Many of us are walking around sometimes looking at the circumstances of the world and going, how could this be? How could God be present in this? How could this pain I'm feeling and this fear and this suffering that I am experiencing be part of God? How could that be? And the only answer to that question exists in our own understanding of how all those pieces can be in us. And it's that work that begins to melt away what no longer serves. It is that work itself that are the stepping stones to holding God, to holding the wholeness of ourselves and our lives in totality. I will remind you that perfection simply means nothing is missing, complete. So part of our work begins in leaning into the perfection of our own beings, the perfection of our ego and the role that it plays. And thank God that there is this aspect of ourselves that we have to do a little bit of wrestling with, because it's in that wrestling that we get shaped. It's in that wrestling that we may just stumble into our divine nature. It is part of the path, really critical part of the path. So rather than demeaning and name-calling this little s self, how about bringing it in, giving it its right place, thanking it for all it has done for us? Ernest Holmes says, find me somebody who has detached their emotional and psychological ego from the real self, without having to deny the place it plays in the scheme of things, and without slaying any part of themselves, because the transcendence is there also. The transcendence is there also. I want you to take a moment right now and just thank that ego, that little s self. Thank you. Thank you, my wholeness. Thank you, my absolute perfection. Thank you to my life and every single moment in it that has allowed me to arrive here in this moment. Because the transcendence I am longing for, the peace that passes understanding that I long to experience, is waiting for me as a result of all of it. And when we begin to really understand the barriers in our own minds, the misunderstandings that we have gained along the way, it is through that understanding that we gain that peace, that we gain the lightness of being, when we can begin to laugh at ourselves, when we can begin to go, wow, I didn't even know I thought that. What? When we begin to listen to what's going on in there, and rather than being horrified by our own thoughts or feeling beat up by our little s self, we can begin to get to know it and realize how some of that came into being, and oh my goodness, I can let that go. Thank you for trying to keep me safe, ego. But I now have a greater understanding of what safety is, so we get to do this different. Thank you for keeping an eye out for me. Thank you for trying to protect my heart. But what I know now, my greater understanding, is that my heart is unharmable, which means some of those misunderstandings now get to melt away, because I love what I love until I held God. And it is those very things that I loved that bring me to this moment of deeper understanding, of greater awareness. Thank you, life. Ernest Holmes went on to say that the prophets of every age have declared the unity of God and man, but they have been among those who have entered in. Dare we deny the reality of their experience, the truth of their measure? They have been among those who have entered in. The Teresa of Avila's, the Buddhas, the Jesus, the Marys, the Guadalupes, all the great shamans of the indigenous traditions, they entered in. And I think we want to sometimes deny the messages that they've passed on, the truth that they have spoken to us and written to us and shown to us. And we deny that often because we think it's only for them. But what happens when we recognize that we each have been invited in, and only ours to do is to enter in, is to say yes to that great invitation, is to just march ourselves right on into the heart of God itself. And that's often some of the misunderstanding in that little s self, right? That misunderstanding that somehow we are separate from the one, that we are separate from each other. We are separate from those who have entered in. But here is the good news. When we go all in, like we're doing this year, all in to our own spiritual life, to our spiritual living, part of that all-inness is recognizing that the entering in is simply the turning within. The entering into our own wholeness, the entering into the totality of our being, which is where those great illuminations happen. Every saint, every prophet, every mystic, every guru, the only reason they've had a vision or a wisdom to share is they entered into the one place there's to go. They entered into their own selves. They were willing to, as Teresa of Avila said, step on those stones across the river in order not to muddy up her cute shoes. And those very silly acts, those vanities, those passions, all of it is part of the entering in. And so you too have been invited to enter in. And I invite you now to say yes to entering in. I invite you right now to think about the ways that you can also enter in. Consider for a moment this ego, this little s self. And I want you to think about an aspect of this little s self that maybe you have determined is not divine. Maybe there's a part of yourself that you consider vain. Maybe there's a part of yourself that you consider wrong or evil or bad. Some part of yourself that you wish to slay. And I want to invite you right now to gather that self up and thank it. And go in and ask that part of yourself, what would you like me to know? What are you here for? Because what I know for sure is everything is for us. God is never against us, which means nothing in our lives and our beings and our own selves can be against us. And that aspect of yourself is here for you. And your own unfolding is here for your journey, your path of transformation. So lean in, gather it up. Get the gift that it is trying to give you. That's what it's here for. As Teresa of Avila tells us, I've loved what I love. So love that self, that whole thing, because it is one of your stepping stones. I guarantee it. So what we're going to do this week in our entering in is we're going to move to step 2, question 2 of Reverend Michael Beckwith's visioning process. We are going to ask ourselves, what must I become to empower the vision of my divine self? And it's not what must I become that I don't already have. It's what must I become that I already am? What about myself must I embrace so that my vision of my whole self can come forward? And what must be released? So your questions this week, as you take these into prayer and meditation, into your daily practice, what must I become? And what must I release? And the only way to know the answers to those questions is to gather up your whole self and lean in and ask and be willing and open to receiving those answers. And as we close this week, I invite you into prayer with me as we continue to enter in and love what we can love. What I know that I know that I know is that there is only one. And that this one is so great, is so complete, is so perfect, it is great enough to hold all that we are, the big S, the little s, the ego and the Atman, our great self and our sometimes not so great self. It is all contained in this one life, this infinite capacity, this infinite supply and this infinite possibility is all happening right here, right now, in me, in you, through me, through you, all around each one of us and beyond our sight and understanding. And so I know that each one of us takes that exact right next step. I know that each one of us embraces and embodies what must be embraced and understood and lived. And I know that each one of us with ease and with grace and with all the love there is lets go of what must be let go of. Any false idea or misunderstanding that seems to be in the way simply dissipates. And I know that as a result of that direct revelation with the one in our own experiences, we each embody more fully the love that we are, the truth that we are, the truth that God is. And because we do so, our lives are transformed. Our communities are transformed. The world is revealed as the love that God is. I am so grateful for the work we do together. I am so grateful for the holy yes we have all said as we've all said yes to going all in. Because that is the call of our lives. And it is good. And so I let that be, and I invite you to anchor that in prayer with me. And so it is.
Hey, Paul.
How you doing?
I'm okay. I'm all right. It's been a crazy week, and I'm grateful for the deepening opportunities that it's provided me with. You know, it's hard for me sometimes to not get discouraged when I see division showing up in the world.
Like today?
Yeah.
Like this afternoon?
Yeah.
It's Wednesday, January 6th, if that means anything to anybody.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
It's been kind of nuts what's been going on, and I've just had to remind myself that, You know, when division is manifesting in the world, it's the result of a belief in separation. And if I dwell in the conditions, then I'm really just perpetuating that belief. So I've just been returning to this mantra that I've had for ever since you wrote that awesome poem the other day, that is, I am resolved to love. Which means that, first of all, to love myself, even when I'm discouraged, even when I'm afraid, even when I find myself getting sucked into that place of the conditions. And then to love the world and to love my fellow humans no matter what is going on. And it's like, okay, I get to choose. My God created me with free will, which means I get to choose to love no matter what. And it's like a radical thing, it's a revolutionary thing, and it's the work that I need to do. It's the work that I get to do. It's my most important thing.
It's the gift, right? To get to see the contrast, to get to really fully sink into this idea of big self, little self. Because it's really easy to get, like, seriously pissed off. Or to take some spiritual bypass position of, like, la, 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 it's, you know, that's all happening over there.
Yeah.
But to take that high, you know, we practitioners talk about the high watch, you know, which may not be familiar to a lot of people. It's a jargony phrase used in the science of mind world, but what it really comes down to, I'm sure everybody watching this can relate to, you know, taking a position of spiritual clarity over a situation for any number of different reasons. Oftentimes it's just to hold a space of peace, but in this case, in the situation, in the conditions we find ourselves in as a country and globally, taking the high watch has taken on new meaning, right? It's really, it's an opportunity to elevate our consciousness and our awareness to a place where we're seeing things unfold from a position of perfection and love.
Yes.
And really allowing that, you know, hate doesn't stamp out hate, only love can do that.
Yes.
And, you know, outrage, anger, rioting being the voice of the voiceless, only love can bring peace to that impulse. And so as much as it might be really easy to look at the people in DC behaving the way they're behaving, and some of our leaders fomenting that behavior and being able to sit in a place of contempt with them, that's easy. But how about holding them in a space of love and saying, you know, their misbelief has to be replaced with solid spiritual principle.
Yeah. Adding hate to hate just creates more of what we don't want. So love is the only true power, and no one can be excluded from it. It's like it's either all of us or none of us. So I have to include everyone and everything in my sphere of love and know that my heart is absolutely big enough to be able to do that.
That's the truth. I had this thought earlier today randomly. Love might just be the only energy in the universe that is replenished by its giving out. You know, even our sun is eventually going to burn out, reduce its output, and not shine as brightly. You know, there's no known energy in the universe that doesn't transform into something else as its own output diminishes itself, except for love. The more you give, the more you have.
Amen. Boom.
Boom. So stay tuned, folks. There's a lot of fun love coming your way in the next forever, really. It's all happening, and it's all glorious.
Yes. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Clarissa.
Thanks, Paul.